Wen Jingji and Zhan got married in a flash the first time they met. Who is a good person from the same family? They went on a blind date with all their kisses on. A seemingly gentle and serene little white rabbit, a seemingly honest and ambitious young man. In fact, the delicate white rabbit has been secretly strategizing and laying out for many years. The honest and responsible young man is a ruthless and domineering billionaire CEO. A seemingly unexpected blind date is the beginning of many years of planning. She lured the enemy into the game with her body, taking it step by step. He knew it was a game, but he enjoyed it. Hidden for many years, true hunters often appear in the form of prey. Wife stickers. Wen Jing looked at Ji Zhan, who was sticky like a dog skin ointment, and fell into deep thought. Is this still the richest man reported in the news? This is the most serious richest person during the day, and the starving wolf at night, tormenting her every day until her waist is weak. Chapter 1. One Night Ambiguity. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. During the summer in Beijing, it rains frequently at night, and the entire Binjiang Hotel is shrouded in drizzling light rain. At this moment, in the presidential suite 2705, there is a continuous and beautiful spring scenery. A white dress and a navy blue suit jacket were mixed together, and men's and women's clothing scattered from the door all the way to the bedside. The ambiguous gasps were mixed with the dripping sound of rain outside the window. The man's big hands kept wandering on the woman's body, and the woman's cheeks were dyed with peach color. The corners of her eyes were rosy, and her gaze was blurred, trembling softly under the man's body. That night, Wen Jing thought she was going to explain herself here. At 4 a.m., she lay on the bed of a stranger, and beside her came the steady breathing of a man. After a fierce battle, the man slept soundly. Wen Jing lay in bed, feeling either aggrieved or helpless, tears streaming down the corners of her eyes. Throughout the entire process, the lights were not turned on, the room was very dark, and she couldn't see the other person's face clearly. This may also be considered fortunate in her misfortune. Just now, she fell for a trick and drank water that had been tampered with before. While running away, she accidentally entered this room to avoid the pursuers. She was afraid that the people in the room would hand her over, so she took out a bank card from her bag and asked him to help her. At this moment, her whole body is sore, and this is her first time. Tonight's exercise intensity is too intense for her. She tiptoed out of bed, dragging her sore body while the people around her were still awake. She picked up her phone and picked up the scattered clothes on the ground under the dim light of the screen. She wanted to put them on again, but found that the dress was torn and too intense to wear. She had no choice but to put on the man's clothes. The man's white shirt was very big for her. She tucked a corner into her suit pants, which were also men. Although the belt was long, at least it wouldn't fall off. She rolled up the hem of her pants and walked out. A few hours ago, as night falls, the Binjiang Grand Hotel. Wen Jing was wearing a white buttocks-up dress, with black slender heels on her feet. She changed her pure makeup from the daytime and appeared at the entrance of the restaurant with heavy makeup. Wen Jing is already very beautiful, with a standard oval face and a pair of almond eyes under her long and curly eyelashes that are very agile. Her skin is as white as snow, and her appearance is like a fairy. She has a naturally small skeleton, delicate waist, with a protruding front and a curled back. Her hot body is clearly visible under the wrap of her hip skirt. Wen Jing stood at the door, and everyone who came and went couldn't help but look at her. Wen Jing gently brushed her hair and walked in seductively with her high heels. Luxury hotels even have top-quality carpets, stepping on them like cotton, and the interior decoration is incredibly luxurious, with crystal chandeliers shining brilliantly. As soon as Wen Jing entered, her phone in her hand shook slightly. She clicked on the screen and received an address from a person with a WeChat name of full stop and a blank profile picture. Binjiang Hotel 2705, have you arrived yet? Wen Jing had no expression on her face and quickly returned, then put her phone into her crossbody bag. She has been planning and laying out for many years for today, and this time she can only succeed in anything she says. Wen Jing walked into the elevator, and the beautiful waitress smiled as she welcomed her in and secured the floor for her. As soon as Wen Jing got out of the elevator, her phone rang. Looking at the caller ID, Wen Jing frowned and impatiently pressed the reject button. However, before putting it in her bag, the phone rang again. Wen Jing had to answer the phone in order not to delay what she was going to do next. "Dad, what's up? I'm busy right now. I'll call you back later." Wen Shan was afraid that Wen Jing would hang up the phone, so he tightly grasped his phone with both hands and leaned forward slightly, quickly saying, "Wen Jing, don't hang up on the phone. Dad will finish soon. Your mother arranged a blind date for you tonight, and I have already sent you the address on your phone. Remember to go later." Wen Jing was afraid of delaying the main task, so she didn't want to entangle herself with him more, so she casually dealt with it. Got it, I'm free to go." After speaking, he put his phone in his bag and headed towards the target direction without listening to Wen Shan's words at all. Wen Shan hung up the phone, and Su Li couldn't wait to approach her. "So, what did she say?" Wen Shan sighed heavily as he watched Su Li. "She agreed to go, Lily. It hasn't been 2 years since Wen Jing graduated, and I don't think I need to force her so hard. She's still young and not in a hurry." Su Li gave him a fierce glare. "What do you know? What do you, as a man, know? Do you want your child to live a miserable life like you? She is currently in her 20s and 60s, which is the best age. Which man doesn't like young people? She only earns a small salary in a month for an ordinary second-tier student and a liberal arts major. The best way out is to marry in. Although I am a stepmother, I am not biased and treat her seriously as a daughter. It would be great if Su Li really thought about Wen Jing as she said. All she did was just for the money. She had already received the money from the other person, and since she had received it, there was no reason to return it." At this thought, a cunning smile appeared on Su Li's face. Wen Jing didn't anticipate the danger at all and kept trying to approach the target step by step. The empty corridor echoed with the crisp sound of her high heels stepping on the ground, and she swayed every step. As she was about to reach the target room, a big hand reached out from 2703 and forcefully pulled her in. Without warning, Wen Jing was dragged in. Wen Jing forcefully swung her arm to break free from the other person's restraint and said sternly, "What are you doing? Who knew the other party would be happy instead of angry? Wen Jing is me, Zhu Jian. Your blind date was introduced by your mother." Upon hearing what the other person said, Wen Jing quickly took a step back and then, disgusted, patted the arm that Zhu Jian had held. Zhu Jian is already in his 40s, and when her stepmother told her about this, she secretly went to investigate the other party. "Why are you here?" Wen Jing frowned with annoyance. Upon hearing Wen Jing's words, Zhu Jian was taken aback. "Please have a casual meal, didn't your mother tell you?" Wen Jing suddenly remembered the phone call her father had just made to her. It turned out to be waiting for her here, but it was just a coincidence that it was in the same place. Wen Jing looked at the time on her phone, but didn't want to entangle herself with Zhu Jian anymore. Instead, she made it clear to him that it wasn't a good thing to see the girl in such a place. "Mr. Zhu happened to meet today, and I made it clear that we were not suitable. From beginning to end, I disagreed. As for what my stepmother promised you, you should go find her yourself. I have something else to do, so I'll leave first." Zhu Jian smiled and said with great elegance. "So it's like this. It seems there was a misunderstanding in between. Don't worry, I will explain it to your aunt in person when I come back. I'm really sorry to ask Miss Wen to come specifically. I'm really sorry to offend Miss Wen. I'll compensate you with water and wine." Zhu Jian was very humble and took a glass of water from the table, handing it to Wen Jing. Watching Zhu Jian's gentle and humble demeanor, Wen Jing also relaxed her guard. She only had tonight's task in mind and wanted to get out of here quickly. Without much thought, she took the water handed over by Zhu Jian and drank it all in one gulp. "Mr. Zhu, if I have something else to do, I'll leave first." "Hey, Miss Wen, why are you in such a hurry?" Zhu Jian's face was instantly covered in a lewd smile, and the elegance just now disappeared, making Wen Jing feel nauseous. "Get lost." Wen Jing pushed Zhu Jian, who was blocking her way, away with force, and then walked towards the door. However, she didn't expect to feel weak all over her body just 2 steps away. Zhu Jian approached her lewdly. "Want to leave with all my body? It's not that easy. Your mother took my money. You really treat me like a scapegoat. You made me happy tonight, and that's all for now." "Pooh. A despicable person." Wen Jing had no strength and could only spit hard at him. Now that Wen Jing has been drugged, her whole body is weak and she is starting to feel feverish, and her consciousness is gradually dissipating. Zhu Jian smiled lewdly and said, "I have never said that I am a gentleman. I advise you to be honest. I don't have much patience and have driven me crazy." Wen Jing used all her last strength to push him away and ran to the door with all her might. Zhu Jian saw her running away and quickly chased after her. Wen Jing ran far away and hurriedly turned around to enter Ji Zhan's room. "Help me, I'll give you all the money in this card." Wen Jing's body was scorching hot, and her cheeks were even more rosy than before. She had a seductive expression on her face, and even her plea for help was particularly ambiguous and alluring. At this moment, Ji Zhan's consciousness was not very clear due to being drunk too much by the client, and coupled with the dishonest teasing of Xiang Ruan in his arms, he finally couldn't control himself. Chapter 2. Dating. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day, Ji Zhan woke up from his sleep, and the fragrant soft beside him had long disappeared, leaving only one card on the bedside table. Looking at the pale pink card of China Merchants Bank, the scene from last night once again came to his mind. He really drank too much, and this absurd romantic affair was his first time. At this moment, he didn't realize anything and went straight to the bathroom to take a shower. However, as soon as he opened the shower, he saw the speckled ambiguous marks on his body. These dazzling marks all told the story of last night's intensity. He didn't want to take a closer look at the marks on his body, so he hurriedly washed it and wrapped it in a towel before walking out. He didn't even see what the woman looked like in the dark at night. It was absurd for him to think that the CEO of Hanyu Group had lost his virginity in this way. In the end, he quietly left a card and inexplicably felt like a woman had been taken care of. When he was sitting by the bed preparing to change clothes, he was dumbfounded. Where were his clothes? There is no trace of his clothes on the sofa except for a damaged white dress. Okay. This woman is really good. After sleeping, he didn't say anything and even took his clothes away. Don't let him encounter her again. Hey, bring me a set of clothes, Binjiang Hotel 2705. Ji Zhan sat by the bed with a fly-like expression on his face. What's going on? Brother, this millennium-old iron tree has bloomed. Xiaong on the other end of the phone was extremely excited. If you still want pocket money, just shut your mouth and remember to be careful when you come, don't let your family know. The next day the coffee shop under the banyan tree. Wen Jing hastily sat down and said, "Sorry, I'm late." After sitting down, Wen Jing finally saw the blind date clearly. Her appearance was indeed as Ning Meng said, the one she liked. However, it was the first time she had seen her with a kiss mark on the blind date. But she doesn't care about these either. She must quickly find someone to marry now. Her stepmother blows a breeze in front of her grandmother every day. There are already enough things at home, and her grandmother is old. She doesn't want her grandmother to worry anymore. Her blind date's purpose is very clear, so she went straight to the topic. When can you accept getting married the fastest? This is very important to her. The people introduced by Ning Meng will not have too poor conditions. Ji Zhan leaned back and looked at Wen Jing, whose neck was covered with kissing marks, with great interest. Wen Jing felt his gaze and her hand unnaturally covered the marks on her neck. It's so fancy to play blind dates with traces on it. Wen Jing looked at the marks on Ji Zhan's neck in the same way and retaliated, this is each other. After Wen Jing finished speaking, Ji Zhan's face showed a beautiful smile. It must be said that Ji Zhan's appearance really grew on her aesthetic, and his smile directly hit Wen Jing's heart. How to get married? Wen Jing raised her eyebrows and took out her household registration book from her bag. Getting married was not a joke for her. Ji Zhan's lips outlined a beautiful smile, and his eyes fell on Wen Jing, as if he was looking through her at someone. After a long time, he slowly said. Yeah. But don't you mind if I'm just an ordinary employee? I'm afraid I won't be able to live a good life with you. I'm just an ordinary person, so there's nothing to be afraid of. How many people in this society are second-generation wealthy, and everyone is just an ordinary person living an ordinary life? Wen Jing just wants to get married and work together. She just wants to live a life together. What can ordinary people have? It's just plain and simple. The two quickly hit it off and took their household registration book to get their marriage certificate. 1 hour later. Wen Jing never dreamed that she would dare to flash marry. She looked at the red notebook in her hand and finally regained consciousness from her daze. She is really crazy. She surprisingly casually obtained the certificate from the person who just went on a blind date. Outside the Civil Affairs Bureau, Wen Jing stood on the steps in a light blue dress, holding a red notebook in her hand, watching the people coming and going on the street, unable to take a step. Beauty, answer the phone, a WeChat voice call came from her pink crossbody bag. This is the voice ringtone she specifically set for Ning Meng. She calmly took out her phone and swiped the green answer button. Before she could speak, Ning Meng's voice came from the other end of the phone. No, where are you? The people you're going on blind dates with have been waiting for you for half a day. You wouldn't regret running away, would you? Wen Jing frowned slightly and walked down the stairs while answering the phone. What are you saying? I have already met him, and both of us feel that it is very suitable. We have already obtained the certificate, and I am still at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau at the moment. What? It's not a situation. Who did you get the certificate with? Ning Meng was so scared that she immediately jumped up and spilled her coffee all over the ground. They are still waiting for you at the restaurant. Just told me they haven't seen you coming, isn't it that you really won't be able to get the certificate from the person arranged by your stepmother? Are you crazy? Who is your stepmother? You can't believe her words. Listening to Ning Meng's sharp voice, she quickly took her phone away. Wen Jing, I know your stepmother is pushing you hard, but marriage matters are related to your happiness in the second half of your life. You need to carefully consider it. Ning Meng sincerely felt sorry for Wen Jing, and her voice softened a lot. Wen Jing's phone, which was holding hands, suddenly lost its strength. She lightly stepped down the last step and didn't stand firm, causing her foot to stumble and twist. Happiness. Does someone like her deserve happiness? Regarding the future and happiness, Wen Jing never dared to think about it. With a bitter smile on her face, she whispered. Ning Meng, don't worry about me if I have nothing to do. I have something else on my end, I'll talk to you in detail later. Hang up for now. On the other side. Ji Zhan sat in the cab of a brand new white Volkswagen Levita, spreading a red marriage certificate on the steering wheel. With a slightly rough thumb, he gently brushed Wen Jing's smiling face in the photo, looking at the red background identification photo stuck on the marriage certificate. He remembered the scene from an hour ago. An hour ago, Wen Jing hurriedly walked into the restaurant and sat in front of him. Wen Jing came up so fiercely that Ji Zhan was stunned for a while. Although he had been lonely for many years, there was no shortage of girls chasing him by his side. Wen Jing was the first one to go straight to the topic like this. He could have told Wen Jing that she had mistaken someone and sent her away, but for some reason, from the moment Wen Jing came in and sat across from him, he felt that Wen Jing was very familiar and similar to the woman in his dream. For some unknown reason, he reluctantly agreed, but his impressive CEO actually married a strange woman like this. As he was immersed in memories, the sound of lightly buttoning the car window came to his ears. Ji Zhan quickly put away his marriage certificate, then opened the car door, and his slender legs stepped out of the car. He then threw the key in his hand to his secretary Kong Fan on the side. "Boss, what's going on with you?" Kong Fan had a puzzled expression on his face. An hour ago, he received a call from Ji Zhan, asking him not only to bring his household registration book, but also to quickly get a car worth around 100,000 yuan. What exactly was he going to sing? "What's going on? Go and buy me Unit 2701, Building 7, Binching Number 1. I don't care how you use it, I must take it." This is the house he mentioned to Wen Jing during his blind date just now. Ji Zhan said and took out his marriage certificate from his arms, with an imperceptible smile on his lips. "Boss, are you married? With the woman just now?" Kong Fan took the household registration book and sent it to the Civil Affairs Bureau. He glanced at Wen Jing from a distance. "I didn't tell her my true situation, and you kept it a secret from me, so the house must be bought." Ji Zhan has always been cold and ruthless, daring to kill and conquer. After years of wandering in the mall, Kong Fan really saw Ji Zhan smile like this for the first time. "Yes, boss, don't worry, I'll definitely handle it for you. The CEO's hidden marriage is popular now, I understand." Kong Fan's face was full of expressions that I understood. Ji Zhan once again put away his marriage certificate and walked towards Maybach, who was parked on the other side. Before he could reach him, the driver, Uncle Li, hurried down to open the car door for him. "Young master." Ji Zhan nodded and sat in the car, his smile disappearing in an instant. He opened the iPad next to him and said to Uncle Li in front without looking up, "Let's go to the company." Chapter 3. Flash Marriage. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. Wen Jing limped and sat at the bus stop waiting for the bus. It was particularly hot in the hot summer season now, and the bus had been waiting for a long time without coming. Wen Jing's mood was inexplicably restless. At this moment, the phone in her hand rang again. She didn't want to answer it at first, but looking at the caller ID, it showed that it was Grandma. In the end, she still answered it. "Jingjing, how have you been lately?" On the other end of the phone was Grandma's kind voice. Grandmother is getting old, and she always reports good news instead of bad. She has never told her grandmother about the grievances she has suffered with her stepmother over the years. "It's pretty good, Grandma. Do you take your medicine on time? Don't save money, should you take the medicine or should you? You're not in good health, and I'll pay you in a few days. I'll give you some money later. You must take good care of yourself, don't you hear me? My grandmother underwent surgery a few years ago and has always been in poor health. She needs to take medicine all year round, but as an elderly person, she is always reluctant to spend money and has secretly cut off her medication several times, causing her condition to worsen. Eating, everyone is eating. Grandma still wants to see you get married and have children, so naturally she needs to take good care of her body. As for the elderly, their wishes are the same. Their older generation got married early, their beliefs were outdated, and they always thought about women. In the end, they had to find a man to be reliable, and their whole life was considered stable. Jingjing, I know you don't like to hear it, but I still have to say that you're not young anymore, so it's time to consider personal issues. Grandma is not many years old either. A few days ago, your dad called and said that your stepmother has arranged a blind date for you. If you don't want to see her, it's always good to see her. It's not that you insist on getting married immediately. You should try to understand her first. What if it's suitable? Upon hearing this, Wen Jing felt even more frustrated. She was not really an unmarried person, but her stepmother was not so kind. The people she introduced to were all older than her, and she was not a few years younger than her father. Her stepmother has been unkind to her since she was young, and now that she has finally grown up, she has started to plan her dowry again. Her stepmother arranged a blind date for her, regardless of their age or character, with the only condition being that they could offer a dowry of 500,000 yuan. The one in my grandmother's mouth is the unjust bighead who is willing to give a dowry of 500,000 yuan. The unjust bighead also has a bad character. His wife is sick and refuses to treat her, dragging her to death. This person died shortly after and was in a hurry to marry a new person. Old people are reluctant to spend a penny on treating illnesses, but they are willing to spend a lot of money on marrying new people. They can take 500,000 yuan as they please. Regardless of their appearance, Wen Jing is determined that they cannot have any entanglement with them. He can treat his ex-wife like this, so he can treat Wen Jing like this old cow wants to eat tender grass. No way. Alright, Grandma, I know now. I'll just go see you when I'm free. Grandma's heart is not good, and Wen Jing dare not stimulate her, so everything follows her. Grandma, I still have to work, so I'll hang up first. The sadness of the worker is that in order to reward her for her attendance, Wen Jing came out for a blind date at a little bit during noon, because obtaining the certificate has already been delayed for an hour. If she goes back late again, her colleague Bai Huan will definitely not be able to hold her back, and then she should be deducted money. As soon as Wen Jing hung up the phone, Bai Huan's WeChat account was tightly linked and sent many messages in a row. Sisters, where are you? Come back quickly. I can't hold you back. An aunt who claimed to be your mother came to the company to find you. Wen Jing looked at the word mom on her phone and unconsciously increased her grip. Wen Jing tried hard to suppress her emotions, but before she could settle the accounts with her, she came first. Where is she? Lisa has arranged for her to wait in the conference room. You should come back quickly. The manager should come back later, and we really won't be able to hide it. Okay, I got it. I'll be back soon. This is not far from the company either. Wen Jing originally wanted to save money by taking the bus, but now the situation is urgent and she can't take any bus anymore. She quickly clicked on the taxi app on her phone and took a fast bus back to the office. Her stepmother won't give up until she dries the last drop of blood from her body. She has been holding back for so many years, and this stepmother not only refuses to restrain herself but also becomes increasingly arrogant. She had not yet entered the company when she met Bai Huan, who was in a hurry and unable to do anything, at the door. Wen Jing, you can count it, your mother. Bai Huan's face was full of helplessness, and she hesitated to speak. She had never inquired about the situation at Wen Jing's house before. Today, Su Li really opened her eyes. Just looking at Bai Huan's appearance, Wen Jing could think of what her stepmother had done in the company. Lisa told the manager about the situation. The manager was very angry and started cursing on the other end of the phone, saying that she would handle your matter when she came back tomorrow. You have caused a big trouble this time. This is the first time Bai Huan has seen such a mother, running to her daughter's company and making such a fuss, without considering her daughter at all. I know, I'll go take a look. As soon as Wen Jing entered the company, everyone looked at her and began to whisper. Su Li's voice was very sharp. Although the door of the conference room was closed, it could still be heard clearly outside. Leader. Where's Wen Jing at home? Did you hide her? I'll tell you, I'm going to take her away today no matter what. Girls should be at home to help their husbands and children. Wen Jing is already at this age, who wants her if she continues to procrastinate? I raised her so much, why don't she get married? What should I do to raise her? Leader, I'm not an unreasonable person either. Today, I'm trying my best to bring my daughter home. She's been out all day and I don't know who's been fooling her. She insists on being a strong woman, and at her age, she's still a company employee. It's better to find a good family to marry. Leader, you also need to empathize with us parents. We are all getting old, and doing so is nothing more than wanting her to live well. If she gets married, I will just die in peace. Su Li even shed a few tears when she spoke about her deep affection. Her acting skills were so superb that she almost deceived herself. She didn't do it for Wen Jing's good. Today, she followed others into the office building and came to the company intentionally to disrupt Wen Jing's work. If Wen Jing loses her job, she will lose her income. Why don't you obediently let her manipulate her? At that time, blind dates and getting married will not be a matter of water coming to the canal. Her wishful thinking made a loud noise. Amidst the gaze of everyone, Wen Jing arrived at the door of the conference room. She reached out her slender hand with a silver bracelet and held it onto the doorknob. After a brief pause, she opened the door. Upon hearing the sound of the door opening, both people in the conference room coincidentally looked at Wen Jing. At the moment Lisa saw Wen Jing, she seemed to have seen a savior and breathed a sigh of relief. In the past, she didn't really like Wen Jing and also felt sorry for her at work. But today, after meeting Su Li, she actually felt some sympathy for Wen Jing. Auntie, since Wen Jing has arrived, I'll go out first and talk to you. Lisa approached Wen Jing and gently patted her hand with a hint of sympathy. Hurry up and handle it properly, don't have any impact on the company. Wen Jing nodded. Chapter 4. Making a fuss over the company. You are listening at novel full.audio. De co lois ara trong quatrin lay text. Chapter 6. Heroes Save Beauty. You are listening at novel full.audio. De co lois ara trong quatrin lay text. Chapter 6. Your husband is really kind to you. You are listening at novel full.audio. You're awake, do you feel any discomfort? The nurse asked gently as she adjusted the infusion set. Wen Jing shook her head. After this bottle of water is drained, there will be no medicine left. You can rest here. Your husband has already completed the procedures for you. Your husband was really kind to you and stayed with you all night last night. Wen Jing smiled and nodded silently. Sir. Where did she come from, sir? Is it her cheap husband? The memories of last night began to come to mind. She could have saved Ji Zhan in other ways, but if it weren't for that, how could she have brought her and Ji Zhan closer together? Before fainting last night, she truly felt Ji Zhan's anxiety. Thinking of this, Wen Jing's perception of him improved a lot. Suddenly, the phone rang in the empty ward. On the caller ID, there was a phone number from Jean Hai, and Wen Jing answered the call with her fair hand. How did it go? Did it happen? The cold machine voice came from the other end of the phone, and the other person used a voice changer. Wen Jing held the quilt with her hand resting on it, her fair back revealing her beautiful meridians and lowering her voice. Did you design what happened last night? Wen Jing suddenly understood that they had been to this bar many times without any accidents, but unfortunately something happened yesterday. She had some doubts last night, and when she received his call early this morning, she became even more certain. After a moment of silence on the phone, a string of cold laughter came through. You're also quite cooperative, aren't you? It's just an opportunity for a hero to save the beauty. If you don't push your relationship forward like this, you shouldn't really think that taking a notebook will make everything okay. Don't go too far with Feng Shiheng. Don't forget that we are only in a cooperative relationship. If you dare to involve Ning Meng in the calculation again, believe it or not, I will take your life. Wen Jing's cold voice was extremely intimidating. Ning Meng was her dead end, and no one could touch her. The other end of the phone coughed lightly and the voice sank. Okay, I assure you there won't be another time. Although Wen Jing was angry that he calculated against her without telling her, she also knew that this step was essential. They are people on the same boat and his cooperation is needed for the rest, so now is not the time to turn a blind eye. How was the injury? Fang Shiheng asked. Thanks to your blessings, I'm still in the hospital. What about Ji Zhan? I think I went to work and didn't see it when I woke up. Fang Shiheng couldn't believe his ears and said, No, Ji Zhan is sick, isn't he? The beauty is soft in his arms, but he didn't behave well and left you alone in the hospital to work. Is this class necessary? He wouldn't have a problem with that side, would he? After all, Wen Jing's beauty is also one of the top beauties in this city. Wen Jing frowned and rubbed her temples. She didn't sleep well all night and felt a headache. Who knows? No, isn't he not interested in you? It's not normal for him to not be interested in me. After investigating him for so long, do you see which heterosexual person he has been interested in? In order to get close to Ji Zhan, Wen Jing secretly investigated him for a long time, and found that he didn't even talk about dating, let alone getting close to the opposite sex. As far as his life was concerned, one believed that he was practicing. Going to work on time every day, going to socialize for work, and returning home on time after socializing is called a routine. Fang Shiheng remained silent once again. Do you think there's a possibility that we got our direction wrong and he's not quite straight? Fang Shiheng's words are really deafening. This is not without the possibility, but no matter what his purpose is, we have already obtained the certificate. Let's take a closer look at the rest. Fang Shiheng let out a heavy sigh and said, Alas, you still need to put in more effort. Don't let all your previous efforts go to waste. Got it. Wen Jing hung up the phone and picked up the note on the bedside table. This is my phone number. I have put a key to the house in the drawer. If the company has something to do, I need to go back and handle it. I will come to you after I finish dealing with it. Ji Zhan's handwriting is clear, vigorous, and powerful. As expected, even good-looking people can write beautiful characters, which is roughly what the person said. Looking at the note for some reason, Wen Jing suddenly felt an inexplicable sense of peace. She held the note in her hand and fell asleep again. Wen Jing slept exceptionally soundly this night, and it was already the afternoon. Are you awake? As soon as Wen Jing opened her eyes, she saw Ji Zhan guarding on the side. Is there anything else uncomfortable? Ji Zhan asked gently. Wen Jing watched him shake her head. Ji Zhan poured her another glass of warm water. Thank you. After sleeping for too long, Wen Jing's voice was still a bit hoarse when she first woke up. I've caused you trouble. Wen Jing's eyes drooped with apologies. There's nothing troublesome about a family. Listening to Ji Zhan talk about his family, Wen Jing lifted her watery eyes and looked at Ji Zhan. After Ji Zhan finished speaking, he suddenly felt a bit abrupt and quickly explained, what I mean is. Ji Zhan couldn't come up with a reason even after half a day. Okay, that's what I meant. Since we have obtained the certificate, we are one family. We will discuss everything in the future and keep the money I earn for you. Here is my salary card, and you can give me some pocket money every month. Wen Jing really didn't expect to hand in her salary card right away. This progress was something she didn't expect. If it weren't for her knowing Ji Zhan's true identity, she would have been truly moved. After all, it's rare for men to voluntarily hand in their salary cards like this, let alone their third meeting. Wen Jing didn't say anything about last night, and Ji Zhan didn't take the initiative to inquire. Wen Jing's health is no longer seriously affected and she can be discharged from the hospital. Wen Jing originally didn't want Ji Zhan to send her, but couldn't resist him. In the end, she still took Ji Zhan's car back to her residence. Su Li already knew about last night's incident. She had been squatting at Wen Jing's residence early this morning, hoping to catch her back. As soon as Wen Jing got out of Ji Zhan's car, Su Li rushed up and grabbed Wen Jing's arm. Wen Jing, it's all because Auntie is not good at identifying people. Auntie has found another one for you. The young man is talented, so I'll take you to take a look. Su Lily was quite angry, dragging Wen Jing to leave. What are you doing? Wen Jing instinctively almost gave Su Li an over-shoulder fall, but she managed to hold back in the end, thinking that Ji Zhan had not gone far. Wen Jing, this time Auntie has personally seen it, and the other party's family conditions are all good. If you come with me to see it, you will definitely not regret it. The cooked duck from last night flew up to her mouth. Zhu Jian was useless and couldn't do anything. In the end, she even forced her to refund all the money she had received from him. She felt that hatred in her heart, but how could she easily let go of Wen Jing? Auntie, I've told you many times that I don't need you to arrange a blind date for me. For the sake of my father's face, I'll tell you one more time. If you still want to do this, don't blame me for being ruthless. As she spoke, Wen Jing took out her phone and typed out the words 110. Su Li's heart grew increasingly resentful. When Wen Jing was a child, she was so obedient to her words, but now this little girl is actually rebelling against her. What's wrong with Wen Jing? Ji Zhan, who had parked the car, saw Su Li bullying Wen Jing as soon as he arrived. He quickly took Su Li's hand away and embraced Wen Jing in his arms. Chapter 7. Plain and light is true. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. At that moment, a warm current flooded into Wen Jing's cold heart. For so many years, she had always been someone that her father didn't love or care about. In order to avoid the dilemma of being a father like Wen Shan, she chose to feel wronged from a young age. Whether it was beautiful clothes or fun toys, she never took the initiative to ask for them. She always picked up clothes and shoes that her sister didn't want to wear, and this kind of life lasted until she came out to work. Is everything okay? Ji Zhan held her in his arms and asked in a gentle tone. It's okay. Wen Jing shook her head and took a step back, habitually keeping a distance from Ji Zhan. Who are you? I'm talking to my own daughter, what are you interrupting? Su Li's voice was extremely sharp, as she reached out to pull Wen Jing. Ji Zhan tightly held Su Li's hand and looked at her coldly, then said word by word. I'm her husband. What do you have to tell me? Ji Zhan threw Su Li away with great force, and the shattered hair between Su Li's forehead instantly scattered. He looked at Wen Jing incredulously. Husband. You little hoof. Cutting off her financial path, Su Li watched as she was about to step forward and hit Wen Jing. Ji Zhan gently held Wen Jing in his arms, causing Su Li to pounce. Wen Jing leaned against Ji Zhan's arms. The faint cologne perfume mixed with Ji Zhan's unique hormone smelled at her nose. Wen Jing didn't speak and blinked her round eyes at Ji Zhan. Ji Zhan gently touched Wen Jing's head with one hand, and gently pressed her into his arms as if comforting her. After giving Wen Jing a gentle glance, Ji Zhan looked at Su Li with a sharp expression. In theory, I should have followed my wife to call you auntie, but your various behaviors are simply not worthy. Now that Wen Jing is my legitimate wife, if you dare to bully her in the future, don't blame me for being impolite. No one used to support her, but now I am here. I don't hit girls, but if you dare to bully her, then I don't mind making an exception for a while. Ji Zhan's cannibalistic gaze made Su Li look flustered. Su Li is a smart person who never confronts others. When she saw someone supporting Wen Jing, she immediately changed her face. Wen Jing, it's normal for you to be in a relationship at your age, but it's better not to be husband without husband if you're not married. Don't you think that's too good? Before Wen Jing could answer, Ji Zhan took out the marriage certificate he received yesterday from his arms. Did you see clearly? I'll just say it one last time. Stay away from her. Su Li looked at her marriage certificate completely dumbfounded and was stunned for a while. Wen Jing ignored her and led Ji Zhan towards the room. Su Li quickly followed. What about the dowry? She doesn't care who Wen Jing marries, she only cares about money. Wen Jing really didn't expect Su Li to have reached such a shameless point. Wen Jing stood still, turned around, and ran to Su Li. She stared at Su Li firmly and shouted loudly, "No. Don't try to make a penny out of me." Due to being too excited, Wen Jing trembled all over, and Ji Zhan looked at her thin back from behind. Su Li's face was thick, and she bypassed Wen Jing and came to Ji Zhan's side. It's not easy for us to raise her, it's reasonable to order a dowry, right? At this moment, Wen Jing's face was extremely ugly. She had clearly stated before that there would be no wedding and no dowry. Auntie, don't go too far. Wen Jing pushed Su Li away with force, using her petite body to separate Ji Zhan from Su Li, but she was so petite that there was no way to separate her. Ji Zhan said to Su Li through her head, "The dowry is naturally appropriate." After Ji Zhan finished speaking, Wen Jing glared at him with force. Enough, are you crazy? Su Li didn't expect Ji Zhan to be so popular, her face almost burst with laughter. Wen Jing, it's still your husband who is sensible. How much do you plan to give? Ji Zhan looked at Su Li's shameless face and smiled, saying, "Auntie, Wen Jing and I are carrying the certificate behind your back and uncle's back. This is not proper etiquette. Let's apologize and choose a good day in a few days. I will personally come to uncle and aunt's house with my belongings to discuss the dowry matter. What do you think?" Su Li's heart was focused on money, and as she watched Ji Zhan's speech, she thought that he should not be short of money, so she agreed. "Okay, then Auntie is waiting for you." After Su Li left, Wen Jing looked unhappy and pouted high. "Are you stupid? Why did you give her money? She's notorious for being greedy. When the lion bites, where will you go to get the money? So you feel sorry for me?" Ji Zhan smiled slightly, and Wen Jing lost her mind in an instant. "I don't have it. Don't worry, although I may not be considered wealthy, I can still get the dowry money for marrying you." Upon hearing Ji Zhan's words, Wen Jing felt even more anxious. She knew that Ji Zhan could certainly make money, but she didn't want Su Li to succeed. "No, we were in a hurry to obtain the certificate. I didn't explain my family's situation to you clearly. My mother passed away a long time ago, and my father remarried. There were many problems with restructuring the family, and she was determined to use me as a cash cow, so I can't let her succeed. If you insist on giving it, then you can give me the dowry." Wen Jing looked at Ji Zhan with a particularly good-looking smile. "Big sister, where did you go yesterday?" As soon as Wen Jing sat down at the workstation, Bai Huan quickly approached her. "I'm sick and hospitalized," Wen Jing said truthfully while turning on the computer. "To be honest, how many surprises do you have that I don't know?" Bai Huan began to frown and wink on the side. What are you talking about?" "Install, you still install. Yesterday, the manager came to the company and didn't see you. When he called you, a man answered and said it was your husband. He said you were sick and needed to take a day off. I didn't just wonder, why did you suddenly have a husband? Why didn't I know? I received the certificate the day before yesterday and didn't plan to hold a wedding banquet, so I didn't mention it." "The day before yesterday? It was the day your stepmother came to make trouble," Wen Jing nodded. Although Bai Huan was very kind to her, it was not appropriate for others to know what she had to do, so she still lied to Bai Huan. "My stepmother doesn't like him. His family is just an ordinary family and can't get the dowry from my stepmother. Plus, I don't want my stepmother to get the money, so I secretly asked him for the certificate." Wen Jing didn't tell the truth and felt a bit uneasy, so she quickly took a sip of water. "No wonder you didn't say, well, you really shouldn't have given her the money. In the future, the two of you will have a comfortable life. If he empties his house and gives the money to your stepmother, then you will have to make up for the loophole in the future." How difficult those days will be. Bai Huan has a simple mind and is solely concerned about Wen Jing. Yeah, life is my own life, whether it's sweet or bitter, it should be my own experience, but never let others affect me. Wen Jing was very open-minded about it herself. Although her marriage to Ji Zhan had a purpose, if Ji Zhan really wanted to live a down-to-earth life, she was willing to accompany him. But if Ji Zhan found out the truth and wanted to leave her, she would also let go and never entangle. Chapter 8. Projects. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. Let's not say that for now. Did the manager get angry yesterday? Wen Jing asked. Bai Huan looked puzzled and bit the pen in her hand, saying. Well, at first he was very angry and even said he wanted to fire you, but I don't know why he laughed again while talking to your husband on the phone. Wen Jing smiled slightly and wondered why. It must be that young Master Ji had used some connections. Just as they were talking happily, Lisa shouted at the door of the conference room. Everyone, come in and have a meeting. Wen Jing and Bai Huan are both small and transparent entities in the company. After taking a pen and paper, the two quickly ran to the meeting room and moved to the farthest and best fishing spot from the leader to sit down. I don't know why, but Wen Jing always felt that Lisa's gaze at her wasn't very friendly today. From just now on, Lisa has always looked at her intentionally or unintentionally. Wen Jing, did you provoke her? Bai Huan, sitting next to Wen Jing, also noticed Lisa's unfriendly behavior. No, I haven't even talked to her before. Who knows what's going on with her? Colleagues from the company sat in the meeting room one after another. Wen Jing and Bai Huan also quietly opened the novel app on their phones. Ning Meng's novel happened to be updated today, and both of them are loyal readers of Ning Meng. The manager walked in with a smile on his face, and as soon as he entered, his gaze fell on Wen Jing. Wen Jing was suddenly startled by the roll call. What's wrong, manager? Wen Jing quickly put away her phone and stood up. The manager changed his usual smile and walked over to Wen Jing with a kind expression on his face. Don't be nervous, there's nothing wrong. Are you all well now? There must be a demon in this abnormal situation. Alright, thank you very much for the manager's concern. At this moment, Lisa's eyes were almost devouring her. Okay, that's good. Meeting. The manager walked up to his position with a smile. As soon as Wen Jing sat down, Bai Huan leaned in. No, what's wrong with the manager? He wished he had eaten you on the phone the day before yesterday. How could he feel like holding you up today? Wen Jing shook her head, but her heart was clear. It must have been Ji Zhan who helped her on the phone, otherwise she might have been fired long ago. How could she still be sitting here? The content of the meeting was dull and lengthy, and both Wen Jing and Bai Huan secretly took out their phones and chased after Ning Meng's novel. Wen Jing was watching with great enthusiasm when she was suddenly called by the manager. Wen Jing, are you in charge of this project? Ah. Wen Jing looked bewildered. Although she has been in this company for a few years, she is just an administrative person who is not familiar with the business, let alone responsible for projects. Everyone was shocked and the manager said this, except Lisa, whose face was full of resentment. Manager, would you like to reconsider? I am just an administrative person who is not familiar with the business, so let Lisa and her team take responsibility. This goes without saying that Jing Ideal utilized the resources of Ji Zhan behind her. Don't worry, I will ask Lisa and her team to assist you. I have already agreed with them, but this project requires you to pay more attention. At this point, Wen Jing knew that no matter how much she said, it was useless and she could only sit quietly. After the meeting, the manager left her alone. Wen Jing, this project is crucial to the company. You have been with the company for so many years, so you must help the company. Wen Jing smiled. Manager, I will do my best, but Lisa has been following up on this project all along. It's probably not good for me to hand it over directly. In the company, Wen Jing just wants to lie down quietly, but she doesn't want to take on so much work for herself. Ji Zhan didn't do anything to help her, but he also sent her a lot of work. It's really great. What's wrong? Everyone is a colleague, and it's the same who is responsible. It's just Wen Jing, can you please say a few good words in front of your husband when you go back? Did Ji Zhan confess his true identity to them? Wen Jing couldn't help but have doubts in her heart. What kind of flattery? Is there any misunderstanding among the managers? Although he works at Hengyu, he is just an ordinary employee and I'm afraid he can't be of much help. Our project this time is a collaboration with a subsidiary of Hengyu Group. Yesterday, your husband revealed that he would be involved in this project, so I thought it would be safer for you to take responsibility and let Lisa assist you. Then, you can ask your husband to speak a few good words in front of his leader and cooperate with me more in the future. Just say something's wrong, I used to be waiting for her here. Alright, this matter is settled like this. Don't shirk it either. I'm optimistic about you. Without giving Wen Jing a chance to refuse, the manager quickly ran out of the meeting room. As soon as Wen Jing packed her things and walked out of the conference room, she saw Lisa. You still have good means. Lisa felt very uncomfortable when she was robbed of the project, and looked at Wen Jing with a strange expression. Lisa, I apologize for this matter. I will find an opportunity to explain it clearly to the manager. Humph, Lisa tilted her eyes and didn't listen to her explanation, passing by and walking towards the tea room. The manager's actions made Wen Jing, who had always been inconspicuous, the target of the company's criticism, and everyone began to feel sorry for Lisa, who was robbed of the project. What kind of thing is this? During the tea break, Wen Jing couldn't help but dial Ji Zhan's phone number. At this moment, Ji Zhan was sitting in the conference room with a serious expression, and he had just scolded the sales manager with a stern expression. The atmosphere in the conference room was extremely tense, and everyone lowered their heads and dared not speak, afraid that the next person to be scolded would be themselves. Ji Zhan looked at the report in his hand, his eyebrows twisted like fried dough twists. Just as he was about to have a seizure, his phone began to vibrate. He had not yet saved Wen Jing's phone number, so he didn't know it was Wen Jing calling him. After hanging up his phone, he flipped it over and placed it on the conference table. Wen Jing saw that no one answered, so she didn't want to continue playing, but accidentally pressed the dial button again. Ji Zhan hasn't been quiet for a few seconds yet, and his phone is ringing again. Ji Zhan's face doesn't look very good, so he answers the phone. What's going on? Ji Zhan's voice was very cold. Wen Jing was taken aback. It seemed that Ji Zhan's mood was not very good. You're busy, sorry to bother you. I'll call you later. Ji Zhan didn't expect it to be Wen Jing who called him. When he heard Wen Jing's gentle voice on the phone, for some reason, his heart suddenly warmed a lot. The tone quickly softened, and the furrowed brows gradually relaxed. Okay, I'll come back to you later. After hanging up the phone, Ji Zhan put away his soft tone and said sternly, continue with the meeting. As if the person just now was not him, the people in the conference room had never seen Ji Zhan's gentle side. Although they couldn't hear him clearly, they could vaguely hear that the voice on the phone was a female voice, and their hearts began to slowly speculate who it was. Chapter 9. First Meal After Marriage. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It's finally time to finish work, and this afternoon it's been an agony for Wen Jing. How can Wen Jing get there later? Bai Huan tidied up her things and asked. Let's take the subway. Lisa walked over and deliberately bumped into Wen Jing's shoulder. Humph, the things we snatch will not last long after all. You don't usually rob others less. Why only allow you to rob others and not allow others to rob you? Besides, this is the manager's arrangement. If you don't accept it, go talk to him. Don't be so cunning here. Aren't you a capable manager? If you were you, I would deeply reflect on whether you did something wrong and made the manager unhappy. Yes, I can't compare myself to Wen Jing. I got married to a good husband. Lisa was in both yin and yang, and Wen Jing rose to power through connections. Bai Huan and Lisa have been at odds for a long time. She smiled even more brightly and said, "Who said you're not as lucky as Wen Jing? You can also marry a good husband." "Oh, I forgot. It's a pity that you can't get married." Lisa's desire to marry into a wealthy family is evident throughout the company. Last year, she was almost beaten by the client's wife as a mistress because of this. You. Lisa's face turned pale with anger, and after a while, you couldn't say anything. Bai Huan pulled Wen Jing's head and walked away without looking back. Just as the two of them came downstairs, Ji Zhan's phone call came over. Wen Jing gestured for Bai Huan to leave first, and she answered the phone. "Are you finished?" Wen Jing's voice was soft. Have you finished work yet? I'll pick you up." Ji Zhan stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling glass window on the 27th floor. "No need, I live nearby and can get there by subway." Wen Jing kicked the stone under her feet and looked at the passing vehicles, saying, "What did you tell my manager? How did he give me the project?" "It's nothing, I just said that I might be involved in that project later, but it's not certain yet." "How did it cause you trouble?" Wen Jing sighed heavily and said, "I know you're doing it for my own good, but I still hope that we don't interfere too much in each other's lives. I don't want to cause you too much trouble because of me. I will find an opportunity to explain to the manager that I won't be responsible for this project, and as for the company's cooperation, you can handle it fairly. I didn't marry you because of your job, I don't want to be your drag-on." Wen Jing's voice was gentle like a spring breeze, listening very soothing and reassuring. "Okay, I'll listen to you. This time it's my fault, I won't be able to do it again. I haven't eaten yet, let's have a meal together." Wen Jing nodded. "Since we are married, we naturally need to get along more. Okay, then you can come to my house. It's still early. I'll go buy some groceries and we'll eat at home. You've been working all day, why don't you go out and eat? I'll treat you." Ji Zhan felt very sorry for Wen Jing and didn't want her to suffer. "It's expensive outside and not cost-effective. Don't worry, I cook delicious food. You haven't tasted my craft yet." The way they discussed dinner looked like an old married couple who had been married for over a decade. Ji Zhan finally agreed to go to Wen Jing's place for dinner because she had to hurry back to cook. Wen Jing took a carpool and bought some ingredients downstairs in the community. After going back, I plunged into the kitchen and started busy with rice and vegetables. In no time, the aroma of food wafted out of the kitchen. Wen Jing made a mapo tofu, a stir-fried meat with peppers, and an egg vegetable soup. As soon as the food was ready on her side, Ji Zhan arrived and heard the doorbell ringing. She untied her apron and quickly went to open the door. With the sound of the door opening, Wen Jing stood in the warm light. Ji Zhan looked at Wen Jing in the warm light and felt a great feeling of getting married. It turned out that having someone waiting for her after work was such a warm thing. No wonder everyone in his company likes to work so much. "I'm back, the food is just right." Wen Jing smiled and welcomed Ji Zhan inside. As the saying goes, if you want to grab a man's heart, you must first grab his stomach. Wen Jing's insistence on letting Ji Zhan come home to eat naturally had her plan in mind. Wen Jing quickly took out a pair of slippers from the side and said, "This slipper was bought big before and didn't have a chance to be returned. I didn't expect it to come in handy today, so you should pay attention to it." Ji Zhan didn't show any disdain and quickly bent down to change his shoes. The two had only met a few times before, and the atmosphere was a bit awkward. After Ji Zhan washed his hands and came out, Wen Jing greeted him to quickly take a seat. "They are all some home-cooked dishes, don't dislike them." Ji Zhan looked at the simple dishes on the table with a myriad of emotions. He had not eaten such a meal for a long time. Many years ago, their family was just like an ordinary family. Mom cooked at home, he did homework inside, and waited for Dad to come back from work. At that time, their family was so happy. What's wrong, isn't it to your taste? Wen Jing thought to herself when she saw Ji Zhan hesitating to use her chopsticks. This guy probably doesn't really dislike the simplicity of the dishes she cooked. No, how could it be? Ji Zhan picked up a piece of meat and put it in his mouth. The fresh and spicy taste of pepper accompanied by the strong aroma of the sliced meat stimulated his taste buds. He hadn't eaten such a delicious dish in a long time. Ji Zhan usually wouldn't eat carbonaceous water without socializing at night, but he really couldn't resist the temptation of delicious food tonight. He ate 2 whole bowls of rice and ate the rice cooker to the bottom. "I'm sorry, I made you laugh," Ji Zhan said awkwardly, looking at the empty plate in front of him after enjoying it. "How could it be? I'm glad you like it." It seems that her cooking skills are still good, and the plan to grab her stomach first is still feasible. After finishing the meal, Ji Zhan was very conscious of washing the bowl. However, he rarely did it in his daily life, so several mouthfuls were missing from his bowl. Wen Jing had been using it for so many years without any damage, and was honorably injured under his command for a while. After washing the dishes, Ji Zhan approached Wen Jing and said, "Well, since we're both married, you'd better move in with me. Although my house isn't very big, it's still possible for 2 people to live in. After working hard for a few years and trying to get a bigger one, now we'll have to endure being squeezed into a small house." "Okay." Wen Jing didn't hesitate either, wondering how the story would develop if we didn't live together. "I just didn't expect that the acting skills of Ji Zhan would not be as outstanding as those popular stars." If Wen Jing had known his identity beforehand, she would have believed that he was an ordinary employee. Chapter 7. Cohabitation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 2 days later, Wen Jing moved out of her rental room. Although it was very small and only 20 square meters, it was the only place that could carry her soul. It had too many memories and carried too many helpless nights for her. She will never forget that cold night many years ago, when she had just returned home from winter vacation dragging her suitcase, only to find that her room had become a toy room for her half-brother Wen Jian. And her so-called father stuffed her 200 yuan and asked her to stay at a hotel as a girl at night. That night, she dragged her suitcase and walked alone on the cold street. Looking at the countless lights around her, none of them were shining for her. After that night, she took out all the money on her body and borrowed some money from Ning Meng, renting this small house of less than 20 square meters. She lived there for many years. Memories of the past flashed through her mind as she closed the door. After taking a deep breath, Wen Jing pulled up her suitcase and firmly turned around to leave. This path was chosen by her, whether it was bitter or sweet, it was all for her to bear alone. Wen Jing didn't have much luggage, she just packed it in a large box. She arrived at Unit 2701, Building 7, Binching No. 1, at the address given by Ji Zhan, in the newly purchased cabin by Ji Zhan. At this time, Ji Zhan was still in his villa, and he forgot that today was the day when Wen Jing was moving in. Wen Jing rang the doorbell several times outside the door, but no one answered inside. She was afraid of disturbing others and stopped pressing, so she finally called Ji Zhan. However, Ji Zhan had worked overtime last night and had not woken up yet, so she did not receive a call from Wen Jing. The phone couldn't be reached and Wen Jing didn't know the password to unlock, so she had to wait outside the door. But she didn't have breakfast in the morning, so waiting so foolishly was not a solution. She sent a message to Ji Zhan. "So, are you working overtime? When will you be back? Today is the day we agreed for me to move in. I'm outside the door now, but I don't have a password to enter. Please reply to my message when you have time." After sending the message, Wen Jing went to find a place to rest. Ji Zhan saw the news from this side that it was already 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and Wen Jing sent him a message at 9 o'clock in the morning. He was feeling unwell and hurried to number 1 Bincheng. Wen Jing found a hotel and stayed for an hour. As soon as she entered, she turned her phone to silent, and after a simple wash, she went to take a nap. It was already 3 p.m. when she woke up, and her phone was filled with calls from Ji Zhan. She didn't return to him either, just pulling her suitcase and walking towards Ji Zhan's side. "Where did you go?" Unable to find Wen Jing, Ji Zhan was very anxious. There was no one at the door, so he went to Wen Jing's previous rental house. As a result, there were already new residents there, and he searched around for them. All the worst scenes flashed through his mind. He was afraid that Wen Jing would be taken away by Su Li, and he was also afraid that Wen Jing would encounter bad people. When he saw Wen Jing dragging her suitcase outside the door, he couldn't hold it any longer and hugged her in his arms. "Where did you go? Why didn't you tell me?" Wen Jing's body stiffened and she said with a hint of grievance, "I can't enter without a password. I waited for a long time without anyone. I'm a bit tired, so I found a place to rest." "You're hurting me." Ji Zhan realized that he had lost some composure and awkwardly let go. "I had some last-minute matters at the company today, and I had to work half a day. I didn't see any news from you, so I won't do it again next time." She picked up Wen Jing's suitcase and then pulled her in. Ji Zhan's newly purchased house is not very large, just over 90 square meters. It has 3 bedrooms and 1 living room, and the decoration is also very simple. The kitchen and living room are separated by sliding doors, with 1 master bedroom, 1 second bedroom, and 1 baby room. The entrance is the foyer, and passing through the entrance door leads to the living room. There is a small balcony outside the living room. Wen Jing stood at the door feeling cramped. "In the future, you will be the hostess here." Ji Zhan noticed Wen Jing's nervousness and looked at her standing still, saying gently. Wen Jing blushed and lowered her head. "I am usually busy with work and don't pay much attention to family matters. I don't stay at home much, so there is always a shortage of things at home. You can gradually purchase more in the future, and the money will be deducted from the card I give you." Ji Zhan handed her a bottle of mineral water. He hasn't even bought the daily drinking water for this family yet. Wen Jing sat on the sofa and took the water from his hand. She glanced at the house and indeed saw that there was not much life in it. As soon as Wen Jing finished surveying, Ji Zhan's voice came from the door, startling her. "Wen Jing, you come over." Ji Zhan shouted very naturally, like an old husband and wife who had been together for a long time. "Okay." Wen Jing also responded sweetly. She put down the water in her hand and walked towards Ji Zhan. "What's wrong?" she asked. "It's okay, I just called for you to come and take a fingerprint," he answered. Ji Zhan pressed the password lock a few more times and said, "Here, you can try pressing a fingerprint." Wen Jing came to Ji Zhan's side and reached out her index finger to lightly press it. After pressing it once, the fingerprint on the password lock lit up slightly, and then prompted to press it again. Wen Jing pressed it again, and the fingerprint lit up again. After repeating it, the entire fingerprint lit up. "Fingerprint input successful, welcome home." With the prompt sound, the fingerprint is recorded. "Let's give it a try and see if it can be opened." Ji Zhan closed the door and asked Wen Jing to give it a try. Welcome home, the door opened, and for some reason, Wen Jing's heart warmed. Although she knew it was acting, she couldn't help but feel a slight fluctuation in her heart. She had to constantly remind herself in her heart that she had a plan to approach Ji Zhan. "Don't be emotional, don't be emotional. Thank you." After Wen Jing came in, she instinctively said thank you. "Fool." Ji Zhan touched her head. "I will be a family in the future, don't just thank me back and forth, it's boring. What would you like to eat tonight? Let me cook tonight. You cooked the last time. Can you cook? Wen Jing accidentally spoke out her doubts in her heart. What is Ji Zhan's identity as the CEO of Hengyu? Can he cook? Wen Jing was so shocked in her heart. Is it strange that I can cook? Ji Zhan smiled gently and touched Wen Jing's head again. Well, don't touch my bangs, your hair is all greasy. Wen Jing coquettishly dodged and smiled sweetly. I thought you were busy with work and didn't know how to cook. Ji Zhan smiled and said, I'm usually quite busy with work, so I don't cook much by myself, but that doesn't mean I don't know how to cook. The food I cook should be pretty good, anyway, that's what people who have eaten say. Although Ji Zhan said so, Wen Jing didn't agree in her heart. He was the CEO, so naturally it would be difficult for others to say it was difficult to eat. Then let's try your craft. Wen Jing didn't express her thoughts.